Whew. So Sound of Freedom is by far the most sobering film I have seen in a long time. I kept hearing really good things about it, but just never got around to seeing it. I found myself sitting in the theater after the credits had rolled in silence by myself just to let the experience sink in. I sat down to record this before and completely fell apart, so I'm back. This movie broke me. I think it's perhaps one of the most important films of the year, and I almost missed it. It came out at a time that I was on vacation, and then more and more time passed and I just didn't see it. But I will say this is a standout film and it's definitely worth seeing at the theater. So the story of Sound of Freedom is that a federal agent played by Jim Caviezel is tasked with finding human traffickers and the children that they have captured and sold into slavery. It's based off the real life of Tim Ballard. So the film is not gratuitous with what it shows, but it does imply certain things, which makes you feel overwhelmingly heavy and incredibly sad. So I'll say at the top of this review that this film is produced by Angel Studios, which might lead people to believe that it's overtly Christian or super conservative. I didn't get those vibes at all. I just saw a really good and powerful movie and left my politics at the door. It's entirely okay if a filmmaker wants to put a political message out into the world, but it's simply not a factor here. Oof. I'm going to try to keep it together. I'm talking about certain things and just feeling very sad, and it's bringing up a lot for me. So I want to start off with some positives about this film. The brother and sister are the heart and soul of this movie. I never got the sense that either one of them were acting and that I was watching a movie. I felt like I was watching children who had been through a traumatic event. Oftentimes with child actors, especially with scenes that are super dramatic, can come across as corny and as though they haven't really honed their skill set yet. But like I said, this just felt like these children were experiencing these things, and I was just watching their trauma unfold. There's a scene with the little girl in particular that after something has taken place, she's just in a bathtub and sings and plays music to herself, and it's the most heartbreaking thing I've seen in a while. Jim Caviezel has had some great performances in the past with things like The Count of Monte Cristo and The Passion of the Christ, and he's excellent in this film as well. In the beginning, you see just how hard his job is as he's tasked with watching some of this horrible footage and transcribing what is happening in the footage. It shows close-ups of him just tearing up and crying, and there's several scenes where it shows Caviezel just bawling, and it really is a great performance from him and does a lot to elevate the film. He actually has really great chemistry as well with any of the kids that he interacts with. You can genuinely feel his empathy, compassion, and his drive to save these children. The story itself is a huge standout. It's a harrowing true story about a man just trying to put more good out into the world and to save some kids. There was an older demographic of people in the theater that I was in, and with the material, everyone was super reverent and respectful as they watched the movie. I think with the subject matter, you kind of have to be. But you could physically feel people's discomfort in certain scenes in the movie. And I definitely cried multiple times. I've actually cried a couple times doing this review. Shit's sad, man. So the one-liners in this film are very compelling and not cheesy at all. They even do the titular line thing where they say the title, and it's actually one of the most beautiful moments in the entire film. When Caviezel's character Tim is asked why he does this type of work, he says, "God's children are not for sale." Whether you believe in God or not, can we all just get behind that sentiment? I guess the pedos can't, but can the rest of us? There is some humor in the film to give audiences a respite from the dark material, and it does work to alleviate some of the tension. The music in this film does so much to elevate it. It reminded me of the music from the Last of Us video game and TV series by composer Gustavo Santaolalla. It has these beautiful Hispanic acoustic guitar undertones and sometimes swells with big violin moments that really amplifies certain scenes. Music is a component that has a through line for the characters and creates some truly heartbreaking moments. A character simply playing drums with their sandals to a scene of desperation and one of triumph. It's those moments that are so beautiful where it just represents her innocence and shows what the whole purpose of the film is: to save the innocence of the world and stop these monsters from doing what they're doing. So as you can tell, this movie made me feel a whole range of emotions. From sadness to anger to disgust to compassion and empathy, it made me feel overwhelmed, honestly. So much so that I was frozen to my seat when the film ended. And there's a special message from Jim Caviezel at the end of the movie. It gives you a little countdown timer and shows that there's 2 minutes left until there's a special message. And he basically encourages people to share the film with others and to buy other people tickets if you have the funds. As I was watching this beautiful little girl having her innocence taken away from her, I kept thinking, how could someone do this? And it's a real life thing. Look at Jeffrey Epstein. The film shares some staggering statistics that it's a $150 billion a year industry. The visual style and cinematography do a lot to enhance this film. Silhouettes are used quite frequently in Sound of Freedom to show the juxtaposition between light and dark. It is used to convey a heaviness or a darkness a character is feeling, but it is also used to effectively not be overt in the scenes between children and their captors. So basically they hide certain things in the shadows. I think this would be the most difficult role psychologically for any actor to play. Whether you're a child or an adult having to interact within those scenes, I think it would just be grueling. And I can't imagine directing people to do that. So I think that kudos goes to the actors and the director for that, because it's just tough subject matter. So I go to the movies to feel things, to have experiences, and this film definitely gave me that. It wasn't really an experience that you want to willingly go into. I don't want to go into a movie and come out feeling sad and hopeless about certain aspects of the world, but I do think it's important. That's it. Go check it out.